Oh, it's been a while since I've been on. I think I started this thing a little bit too early. Should have done the preseason stuff maybe a little bit earlier than I should have, but you know what? Here we are. And I am so happy that it is the way it is. So let's figure all this stuff out, and we'll do it together. Headlines here. Patrice Bergeron, he's still possible to come into play today. There'd be a big leg up for the Bruins, especially with kind of this weird way that they've been playing. And I imagine it can't feel too good losing to Toronto, especially when they're at this kind of transition point as a team. And he's probably what exactly they need. I mean, we saw what he was able to do at the World Cup of Hockey, and that's pretty much what we want to see for him. Rickard Rakell signs a 6-year, $3.8 million a year deal with Anaheim. I like this deal. I think it's a fantastic thing for both the Ducks and for Rakell. I know some people might disagree and look at Rakell as maybe not someone who deserves $3.8 million a year, but he's a stable dude. And again, we're at this time in the league where these good teams from maybe 3 or 4 years ago are starting to figure out their transitionary period. And Anaheim is definitely one of those teams that has that date stamp on them. I mean, Getzlaf and Perry aren't getting any younger. I mean, they're still in that prime time, but it's great that Anaheim's thinking about this cyclically. Evander Kane, with that nasty run into the boards, is going to be out for weeks, according to the Buffalo Sabres, and that's all you're going to get. It's a couple cracked ribs. Just depends on how fast that healing process is going to go. I'm not an Evander Kane fan, but that looked hella painful. Now, Carter Hutton was lights out versus the New York Rangers, and when St. Louis thought that they were going to be in a bit of a goaltending problem with the fact that Elliott was gone, you're nowhere close. 15 saves in that third period to stop arguably one of the best offenses in the league. That's fantastic. And lastly, Jaromir Jagr is still at 749 goals, looking to join Gordie Howe and Wayne Gretzky as part of that final deal. All right, let's jump into our leaderboard here. Sample size is pretty small, guys, so I made it the way it was. It was a little bit of how the record was. It was a little bit of how I saw the teams playing in their first 2 or 3 games. But I want to start with my number one team right now on this list, and that is the Ottawa Senators. And everything that we needed to project Ottawa to go right so far has gone right. We're looking at that top line. This trade that's happened in the offseason, Zibanejad, Brassard, has worked out for both clubs, and I think that's awesome. I think that's unbelievable that they're in this kind of mode. And just to put it in perspective, that top line is Bobby Ryan, Derek Brassard, and Zach Smith, and I believe they're at a combined 7 points right now. And that's all you could ask for your top line right now. The only caveat is that you're 2-0 against a Montreal without Carey Price and against a Toronto team that has yet to fully prove itself as well. Erik Karlsson brings up the defensive line. He's already got 4 points, so he's already projected to have 160 plus, right? What you really want to see from Ottawa is going to be within this next week. It's going to be a great season projection for them. It's going to be a great time to figure out who they want to be as a club. And you got to keep in mind here that, yes, that sample size is small, but all the pieces that are supposed to be rolling right now are rolling. And I think you can thank a large part in that to the World Cup of Hockey. Erik Karlsson looks like he's in that midseason form. He's already breaking up. There's no hesitation in his play. The young guys they're playing as well. And then this top line has been gelling. So it's looking very good so far for the Ottawa Senators. And if you're an Ottawa fan, you know that you just have to go along for these streaks and go along for the ride and see where it ends up. Next week, they've got the Red Wings, the Arizona Coyotes, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So this is a very good testing ground within this week to see how they do against mid-of-the-pack teams and then a team like Tampa Bay who's supposed to finish real high in the standings. So we're just going to have to see where it's going at. I still love this trade. I still love this team. I think they're going to do very, very well. Oh my goodness, that number 2 team, the Vancouver Canucks. And it's a bit odd that I've put them there because before the game last night, before they played the Carolina Hurricanes last night, they were near the bottom of my list. And it was because there was this giant microcosm of a season. If Vancouver ends up blowing all their chances like they're predicted to, I want to look at that one moment in Game 1 where Louis Eriksson is trying to be the nice guy, and makes the safe play back, but it goes into his own net. So good guy Eriksson scores on himself. Erik Gudbranson tries to be a defensive hero, but he just ends up diving through the net. That might just be the microcosm of the season. That might just be how Vancouver's season ends up. Period. Right? So I know everyone's super excited, but let's keep those expectations back in check. You played the Calgary Flames and you played the Carolina Hurricanes. Calm down, Vancouver. This next week, again, like Ottawa, is a giant proving ground, and it's not going to look pretty. You got to weather this California storm that's coming, and you got to take those 2 points against Buffalo. I think for Vancouver to do better than they've been projected, and that's not talking about for Vancouver to make the playoffs, for Vancouver to do better than projected, they need to win the games that they believe they can win. Buffalo is one of those games. St. Louis, maybe not. Those two California teams, I mean, as a club, you got to believe it, but I'm not. Jannik Hansen was on fire last night as well for the Vancouver Canucks. Coming back from 3-0, he was making plays. He was making shots. He was trying to pick corners. He was doing such a good job, and he was making passes. So there's that good sign there, but we'll talk a little bit more about Vancouver because they played Calgary, and I got a giant rant coming up when Calgary comes up on this list, so just you wait for that. Moving on to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and these guys are number 3 because that was some of the most entertaining hockey I've seen in a while. I debated putting just Austin Matthews' name on that list and letting him be that spot, but that second game kind of proved me wrong. They played a very strong second game. Great attacking the net, great collapse. The one thing from Toronto I want to see a whole lot more of is not even the secondary scoring, the veteran presence that's supposed to be lifting these guys to the top. I think it's awesome that Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews are the centerpiece, are the highlights of this team, but you need so much more than that. And I think, especially in the game against Ottawa, you didn't see much past Mitch and Austin. It was just kind of rope-a-dope. No one was really doing anything else. And I want to see more. I want to see more from JVR. I want to see more from these guys that are supposed to be at least coaching these guys to a certain extent, coaching these rookies to a certain extent, to be the best that they can for the Leafs at this moment in time. Now, having a guy score 4 goals and still losing is a pretty sour note, but, I mean, you came back and beat a fragile Boston Bruins squad, and I think taking advantage of those teams the way that they did, especially against Boston, they proved that they could play shutdown hockey, and they proved that they could keep a lead. There's a lot to hope for in Toronto now. There's a lot to go on in Toronto now. And it's weird and it's great all at the same time. Frederik Andersen is starting to prove himself a little bit more of a solid netminder than I originally thought. But with the Maple Leafs, I think they're in good hands, and it's fun hockey to watch. It is very fun, fast-paced, breakneck speed hockey, and that is what the NHL was going for. Moving along here, we've got the Edmonton Oilers up next. And for the Edmonton Oilers, they learned a very, very, very strong lesson come last night in their 6-2 loss to the Buffalo Sabres, and that is every team is not the Calgary Flames. Beating Calgary twice must have felt great, but that does not mean that's going to be the way it is for the next 80, and they had to learn that almost the hard way. And for me, that was a defensive breakdown that proves to me that Chiarelli still hasn't quite figured out his pieces to the puzzle yet in terms of who he wants on that back end to help the Edmonton Oilers secure their defensive structure. I think offensively they're fine. Offensively they're more than fine. That center ice goal, man. That center ice goal. I mean, that was unfortunate, but it broke Talbot, basically. I mean, it was a 2-2 game. Everything was going fine. That goal goes in, and it broke him, and I'm not blaming him for the other goals, but I think it's a psyche thing, you know? The D are now backing up a bit. The goaltender's playing a little more cautious. There's a little bit of a hesitation, a little hitch there. This looks more like a fluid hockey team to me than a team that had no idea what it was doing, and it was just throwing out whatever draft picks that they made in the past 5 years and hoping that they get it together. McClellan's running a solid system. He was starting to put that in place last year. Now him and Chiarelli are in dialogue, and now things are starting to happen. McDavid is making his stamp on this team, and putting that C on his chest has just elevated him to that next high. It has been so much fun to watch him and what he's been able to do with the puck, but also watch that front line. Edmonton's got a lot to be hopeful for. And I think they just need a little more time to grow. But again, I mean, this week it's been good to them. It's been good to them minus that loss. But I think that's going to be a good motivator to say we can't rest on any given day. Even our kids, we can't rest on any given day. Edmonton has Carolina, St. Louis, and Winnipeg coming up. And if you're the Edmonton Oilers, you're looking to win at least 2 of those 3 games. All right, up next to the Carey Priceless Canadians, and they're holding their own. And I think that is exactly what Bergeron wanted when he saw the absolute collapse from last season. Moving these pieces around to give Montreal more of a defensive identity than an offensive one has helped, and it's helped a lot. And I know both their games have gone extra time, but that means that they are in every game. Right? It means that they are competitive. As per anyone's hope for any club is that win or lose, you are competitive at the end of every game. As long as you show up and you try and you play and that score is close, that is what we want. That is always what we want, and that is something that has to happen each and every night. And I think the Shea Weber trade benefits the Canadians in that sense. I think it also benefited the Predators, but we're not talking about American hockey, so I'm going to skip out on that. The Canadians needed something to fall back on in the event that Carey Price got hurt, and you can't rely on an offensive defenseman to do that. Right? It's what's kind of got Ottawa in trouble, and that's why they wanted to pull someone in like Dion to help and figure that out. I don't think Dion's the answer, but I think that's, that mindset, that logic is so correct in everything that they're doing. So the fact that Montreal's doing what they're doing is fantastic, and I love the play over the past couple games of Brendan Gallagher. I think he's already got 3 points. It's somewhere on my list. Yeah, man, it is. So this is my question for Montreal. Is this Gallagher's breakout year? We've seen him as a force. We've seen him as a secondary pest, as you will. But is he that next Bergeron kind of guy? Is he going to be the one to mess around in front of the net? Is he going to be like that Alex Burrows kind of guy who's going to mess around in front of the net, get into those little nitty-gritty parts, get under the skin, but then make you even more mad by throwing a puck in the net? I think so. I think from the play that I've seen so far, Gally is up and above ready for whatever is going to be thrown his way. And I think the Canadians need him to be ready because I think offensively they're still in a little bit of trouble, but he's making up for it big time. So consistency, Carey's coming back. He's just got the flu. I don't care what the media is saying. I don't care who's talking about what or whatever. The Canadians are saying he's got the flu. You got to believe them. After the ridiculousness that happened last year, I'm pretty sure they'd want you to push the panic button now. And it doesn't look like no one's been fished for, or there's no rumor mills on trading for a goaltender right now in terms of Carey Price is injured like there was last year when we knew he was going to be out for the long haul. That was one of the first signs that he was going to be out for the long haul. None of that has happened. Calm down. Carey's coming back. Montreal, I think, is going to do fine as long as they keep up their scoring production. Oh, man, the Winnipeg Jets. It sucks that I had to rank the Jets this low, but I feel like that win and that loss, that juxtaposition right there, kind of put me in there. And I mean, looking at it now, I almost want to rank them ahead of Montreal in these little mini leaderboard standings week by week. But personally, this is my favorite team of the week because every game they played was so much fun to watch. It was back and forth. Comeback hockey in game 1. Game 2, it was a good battle between two clubs. This was fun, amazing, fast-paced, breakneck speed hockey. This is the stuff I want to see for 82 games. This is the stuff I want clubs to do. Blake Wheeler, as a captain, is flying. Patrick Laine is going into those spots. I mean, watch the games. Watch when they play. He is on the left side, just above the hash marks. And do you know who else plays there? Some pretty good talent. You've got Ovechkin in that spot, and you've got Stamkos in that spot. Two guys who know what they're doing. And if he already knows to skate and find himself open in that spot at the right times now, then, I mean, Winnipeg is going to be flying off to a great start. I believe Scheifele is also in my list. Yeah, Wheeler and Scheifele are combined for 7 points right now. And that's what you want. Blake Wheeler, he's moving the puck, he's shooting the puck, he's doing everything right. He's taking that captaincy and he's running with it. All right? And what's even better for the Jets is that this week is that opportunity for them to prove where they belong in this league. Because right now I see them as this middle-of-the-pack team, but do they belong in that top half or in that bottom half? Next week, you've got Boston, you've got Toronto, you've got Edmonton. Where do you belong? Do you belong in the top half? Are you going to beat out those middle-of-the-pack teams like Boston is? Or are you going to stay with the Edmontons and the Torontos? That's your call, Winnipeg. Let's see how hard they fight for it. I think they can win all 3 of those games this week. I think they can. That's how much fun, that's how much belief I have in that system. And who am I? I'm just an excited dude. Up very last, we've got the Calgary Flames on this list. And Calgary has been a team with so much pizzazz and no finish. And if you're a Calgary fan, you're frustrated. And I don't blame you. You watch guys waffle the puck around, miss the net, hit partially something, I don't even know. You're not getting the proper shots off. You're getting block shots. You're watching Johnny Hockey dance your way from blue line to blue line and then find no one to pass to. You're watching the most uninspired shootout of all time. You have some of the best deking talent in the league. And you made Ryan Miller look like he was taking shots at practice. That was the worst shootout I've ever seen. I was so happy it ended when it did. It should have ended earlier. If that's what you're going to do, Calgary, you solidly outplayed Vancouver that night, and you didn't even get a goal. When people are complaining about the way the Canucks played, and they won, that's not good. When you go up against the same team twice, it's week 1. That's your optimism. That's what you got to run with. Go with it. You've got Buffalo. You've got Carolina. You've got the Blues. You got to do it. Those are your 3 teams. You can win 2 of those 3 games. Pick your 2. I don't care. Get on the board. Make some noise. All right? The silver lining for most of these teams, I think 6 out of the 7 teams right now, is that you are all better than the Chicago Blackhawks. Congratulations. For Ottawa and Vancouver, you're just as good as the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's been 2 games, guys. Let's figure this one out as we go along. Hey, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can hit me up on Twitter at Nesan.Furtado, on Skype, that is my name as well, or through this feed. We're live on Facebook, all right? If you missed out, it's always uploaded the next day onto YouTube, and it will be re-aggregated through Facebook as well. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Again, if you want to see yourself on the show, if you want to call in, have something like that, message me beforehand. The Skype handle's out there for a reason. I want you guys to call in and just have a great time with it. Other than that, it is my turn to say goodbye. I've got a bunch of stuff to do today. I got to go see Yeezy tonight. Kanye's in town. He's going to be 3 hours late. I'm already guaranteeing it. Have a fantastic night, everybody. And if you're watching the Jets game, let me know what the score is, because I have no idea what it is. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you later.